Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty unique, a manuscript called Vampires Suck. It's definitely a deep dive for those who like their immortal tales, sort of dark, sarcastic, and maybe a little messy.
Absolutely. Our mission here is really to excavate this thing. It's more than just a story, isn't it? It feels like a confession from this character, Lester. We want to pull out the really compelling stuff, the voice, how it flips vampire tropes on their head.
Yeah, Lester, he's the heart of it. Or maybe the pickled liver of it. 2,000 years old, immortal, cynical, usually drunk, just surviving on boredom and bad choices. And the whole book is framed as his unfiltered monologue, 2 millennia of guilt and rot.
And what's really interesting, I think, is the connection it makes. It's not just Lester's personal angst, his isolation, his, ethical mess-ups. It's how the manuscript links that ancient personal decay to his search for meaning in a world he sees as totally corrupted by power systems, not fangs.
Okay, let's start with that voice. Because if the story is the car, Lester's voice is definitely the engine. It's described as gonzo, so think raw, sarcastic, biting humor, very dark comedy. And his home base is this dive bar in Tijuana, Van Helsing's. That's where he spills his guts.
Right, and he kind of sums up his whole existence, his whole burden with this one line that just sets the tone perfectly. He says, "Immortality isn't a gift. It's God's middle finger wrapped in a cosmic prank. It's not a superpower, it's punishment. Forever."
Wow. Okay. So if that's his attitude, what's he railing against? Besides God, apparently, he seems to spend a lot of time tearing down myths. Like he insists no bats, no coffins, definitely no sparkling. He really seems to hate how pop culture has romanticized vampires.
Oh, he despises it. He specifically calls out, Anne Rice gets mentioned for turning them into, what was the phrase, the K-pop boy band of the damned, all tragic looks and lace. He wants to strip all that away.
Demystify it, basically.
Exactly. To force you to look at the actual rot underneath. And the manuscript really pinpoints where it all started for him. His own fall from grace. It goes back 2,000 years to Salome, John the Baptist, that whole infamous scene.
Right, but the manuscript makes a point here, doesn't it? He wasn't the evil genius behind it. He was just the guy who did the job.
He calls himself the schmuck with the blade, just following orders. And crucially, his big moral failure wasn't the act itself, the beheading. It was the silence after, his complicity. Watching Salome drink the blood and doing nothing, standing still.
That's heavy. So that's the seed that inaction is where his 2,000-year guilt trip starts.
That's presented as the origin, yeah. His personal failure to act, that moment of silence, is the beginning of the rot for him.
Okay, so he's got this immense personal burden. How does the manuscript then connect that personal failure to the big systemic corruption he sees everywhere today? Where do the modern vampires come in?
Well, it flips the metaphor completely. Lester argues the real vampires today aren't supernatural beings at all. They're defined purely by greed and power. They're human monsters, in suits, operating on a global scale.
And this isn't just vague cynicism. He actually names archetypes for this new ruling class.
He does. There's Uncle Jacob, the banker type controlling capital, and Uncle Bill, the tech mogul. The guys who shape our reality now.
And he gets specific about how they operate.
Very specific. The most striking example is his view on finance. He flat out claims the Federal Reserve is vampire architecture. Designed by immortals, people with endless time, specifically to manipulate economies over centuries, to create debt, which he sees as modern enslavement. He tells his bartender, Iggy, "You're not in debt, kid. You're on the menu."
Wow. Okay, that's a take. Does the book question whether Lester himself is just swabbing one kind of myth for another, maybe a paranoid conspiracy theory?
That's definitely a tension in the text. His satire is just relentless.
Yeah.
It goes right after the tech elite, too. The writing compares them to historical monsters like Rasputin, just wearing new clothes. He mentions Elon Musk by name.
Oh boy. What does he say?
Calls him a space messiah with his dick-shaped rockets. Sees him as part of this same immortal impulse trying to monetize everything, even the universe. It's all about absolute control, whether it's ancient Rome or Mars colonies.
Okay, let's shift a bit to the story's shape. The analysis mentions the man in a hole structure. So fall, rock bottom, then maybe a climb out. Lester definitely hits bottom.
Oh, he hits bottom repeatedly, and the manuscript makes it darkly funny. His journey towards maybe finding some hope involves some truly pathetic failed suicide attempts first.
Right. Tell us about those. They say a lot about his state of mind, don't they?
They're almost slapstick, but incredibly bleak. He tried feeding himself to a lion in the Roman Colosseum. Apparently the lion just chewed my ass off, and he regenerated the next day. Then he tried dousing himself in gasoline on Baker Beach in San Francisco, lit himself up, nothing, just felt warm, not burning. He literally can't die.
Chewed his ass off.
Yeah.
I mean, the indignity, even eternal suffering, is humiliating for him.
Exactly. It's part of the cosmic joke, right? So these failures, this inability to find an end kind of force him to look elsewhere, and music starts to play a role.
Oh, the jukebox motif. Bukal Harem's A Whiter Shade of Pale. Keeps coming up. And Iggy, the bartender, points out it's not just background noise. It's like a goddamn summons. It's tied to Dawn.
Yeah, specifically to Dawn, this mysterious woman who appears. And Iggy himself is crucial here. He's the foil. Sarcastic, grounded, totally human. He doesn't let Lester wallow. He pushes back. The man's answers. He's kind of the voice of the audience, in a way.
So the real shift, the start of the climb out of the hole, isn't some epic battle. It's smaller moments.
Seems like it. There's this scene where Lester sees a kid dancing in the bar to this band Los Gatos Negros. Just raw, primal movement. And he feels something shift, describes it as the heartbeat of something feral. A tiny spark of maybe purpose, or at least life.
And then there's the car, the Shelby GT500. That felt like a really heavy emotional beat in the summary. It goes on four wheels.
Huge beat. It's not just a car. It's a connection to loss, to history, to someone real.
And Jimmy is.
Jim Morrison, the Lizard King. Lester confesses they were friends. Driving that car, especially down the Pacific Coast Highway, seems to be his way of holding onto the real person, maybe, before Morrison became just another myth, another piece of history to be packaged and sold. It's about grief the booze can't touch.
That makes sense. Wow. So moving towards the end, the manuscript seems to contrast all that big historical darkness, Rome, de Sade, Morrison's fame, with these really small, specific comforts.
Yes, these tiny moments of humanity that somehow cut through his numbness, like sensory details.
The redemption in a tortilla line stood out. That memory of the salsa at El Guillito de Oro.
Exactly. He remembers the taste, the heat making his eyes water, not from pain, but from remembering what hunger used to feel like. Those immediate physical things, taste, touch. That seems to be what anchors him when history and immortality become too much.
And this all leads to a vision quest in the desert with someone called El Cuervo. Sounds pretty intense.
It is. Piedritas de la Memoria, the little stones of memory. It's described as chaotic, drug-fueled, flashing through history again. The Medicis, Joan of Arc, even Miley Cyrus makes an appearance.
Miley Cyrus, okay.
It's meant to be disorienting, I think. But the key takeaway is this cryptic phrase El Cuervo gives him, "The truth is in the womb." Very strange, very visceral.
The truth is in the womb, okay. And that somehow connects to Dawn. She seems to be the catalyst for the end, or whatever happens at the end.
Right. Dawn represents something. Alive, present, maybe uncorrupted, something he's avoided for centuries. There's this climactic scene in a hotel room. He seems to find peace with her. And then, he literally turns to ash, merges with the light. It looks like he finally got his ending.
Except, he doesn't.
Nope. Right away, he apparently just dusts the ash off his chest. He's back. And the sun, which should destroy him, feels warm, not burning. So, no finality, just continuation. A change, maybe, but not an end.
Ambiguous, definitely. Before we wrap up, you mentioned the analysis had some critique notes?
Just briefly, yeah. The editor's notes suggested that while the voice and the ideas are strong, some of the conspiracy rants and the lectures on mythology could probably be trimmed for momentum, you know? A little tighter focus might help.
Got it. So, summing this all up for you listening, the real power here seems to be that magnetic, cynical, darkly funny voice, Lester's voice. It takes this ancient existential dread and filters it through a very modern satirical lens. And the core brilliance seems to be connecting that deep personal guilt, Salome, to this huge, systemic, modern, evil Uncle Jacob, the bankers, the tech guy.
Yeah, his whole quest is for an ending, for release. But all he finds is more life. The world keeps changing and he has to keep adapting, or trying to anyway.
Which leaves us with that final thought to mull over. If El Cuervo's big reveal in the desert was the truth is in the womb, this raw biological source, and later Lester has this realization that boils down to basic physical presence. The source material quotes him realizing hips don't lie. What does that suggest? In a world drowning in conspiracy, ancient curses, and financial vampirism, where is actual meaning found?
Maybe it suggests the answers aren't in the grand, complicated theories, not in the cosmic drama or the corporate schemes. Maybe the real stuff, the uncorrupted meaning, is much simpler, more immediate, physical even, right there. But maybe we overlook it because we're too busy chasing the bigger, crazier explanations.
Something to think about. That's our deep dive for today.